Hi folks, I'm Mike and I hope you're well. Welcome to episode, I'm going to say it's 14. It's not really episode 14. It's another number, but I skipped over a number. I'm not superstitious, but I know some other people are superstitious. So yeah, welcome to Fix My Mix 14, where we're going to be listening, and I say we, me and an amazing guest. Such an amazing guest. You wait till you see this guy. He hardly ever comes out, to be honest with you. But yeah, we're going to be listening to 3 songs from the community today, and going to be I'm not going to say it's an expert opinion, because that's not really true, but what it is an honest opinion, and a sort of a slightly educated opinion, I'm going to say, about the mixes that we're hearing. The idea of this is not just to benefit the artist who sends in the mix, but for all of us to kind of get used to using our ears and listening to a mix and trying to figure out where it needs to go before it gets released. And when you do go ahead and release it, of course, I would suggest that you use the sponsor of this show, who are DistroKid. I'm pointing to them here, but you can find a link in the description down below. They're not expensive as a service anyway to get your music out to the world, but if you follow that link, you'll get a further 7% off, and I'll get a little something out of the deal at no extra cost to you. So it's a win-win-win situation. We'll talk about DistroKid throughout the show. If you're here in the live chat right now, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I see there's 16 people watching and there's 15 likes, and I haven't liked it yet. So that means, wow, amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'd love to say hi to Thomas, who's here already. Thank you, Thomas, for being here again. And also lovely to see Danny here as usual. I'm going to say, Danny, you're so often here. Lovely to see you. Wonderful to have Doug here in the chat. He is moderating. Thank you, Doug, for doing that for us. Very, very helpful. We also have Mark. Good day, Mark. Thank you for joining us today. And a couple more we'll say hi to in here. Nomad, thank you so much for being here. Wonderful. Don't forget that as we're listening to these pieces of music, and of course, by the way, Jade, yo, Jade, yo. Don't forget, as listeners here in the chat, it's really interesting and useful to myself and my guests if you give us your opinion about what you're hearing. This is interactive. It's a live show. It's important that you're here, and it's important that you give us your feedback on the music that you're hearing. Got some really interesting tracks to listen to today, but before we talk about them, let me have a chat with our guest on today's show. My oldest friend on YouTube, and when I say oldest, I think in years, actually, he might be my oldest friend on YouTube, Mr. Yeah,
Sadly,
Mr.
I think that's correct. I was just thinking that because I think you made the same joke last time because you're a dad and you have dad jokes. But yeah, I think I am. A lot of people we get around with, a lot of people we hang out with, our YouTube cronies and buddies, are these young dudes that have all this energy and all this enthusiasm, and we just have to bring them down like a big wet blanket when they get too excited. So, good
apart from Ricky T. Brown, who's sometimes on, he's been on both of our shows. And I feel I'm going to say this, and I'm glad you raised the subject. You didn't, but anyway, let's pretend you did. The Ricky was last time he was on my show, which was last week or the week before. It was his birthday, and I forgot to say happy birthday on the show. Happy birthday, Ricky! He's older than both of us. How is it there in the future of life, Ricky? Good.
I hear it gets better and better as you get older. That's all.
It does. It does.
Everything just fits well, and no creaks and no aches.
It
no
gets
pains.
better. Just make sure you've always got a toilet nearby. That's all I can say about it. But
See, we've already gone there. We've already gone downhill. We spent an hour together over on my channel just now. So
we didn't get to go there. So
true.
now we're there.
Now we're
here.
toilet humour. Start the toilet humour.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Pete, I just want to tell you that we've got some interesting songs on today's
I've
show.
heard, yeah.
We've got different genres, different languages, different sort of lineups. But I just want to say before we go ahead and listen to the first song, because we're going to get on with this show. We're not going to waffle. This is a short form show. I just want to say a big thank you to the people who do send their music in. It's very, very brave of you to expose yourself to a couple of nut jobs like me and Pete Johns, and who are going to put out their opinion. And if you do want to send in your music to Fix My Mix, you're most welcome. Please do follow the instructions down below in the description. It's very easy. You're just going to send it to me by email with a specific email title, and we'll take a listen to it on the show. Now, you will find, if you watch this show, that all kinds of genres are accepted. All kinds of lengths of song are accepted to a degree. Sorry, this off camera, the battery just ran out on my mouse, so I'm just having to plug the thing in. If you're buying one of these stupidly expensive mice, are they mice? Oh, there we go. Fine, it goes in.
Mouses,
Sorry,
mices.
I wasn't going to be able to continue the show without that. Then do make sure that the battery life's good. Anyway, continue. So look, we'll accept any. I've had sort of film type music on here. I've had sort of game music, all kinds of things, dance music. Anything, very, very welcome. So don't feel that this is genre specific. Don't judge the book by its cover when you look at us two. We'll listen to all kinds of music.
It is true. Yeah, last time I was on here, you had someone who said you've never heard any music like this on the show before, and they played it, and it was true.
And it was so true, wasn't it?
And I can't even think of what genre to call that, but it was.
I loved
epic.
it. It was one of my favourite things that's been on the show, actually. Now, I reckon you're the kind of guy who likes a little bit of sort of 90s rock, aren't you?
I'm a big 90s rock proponent. In fact, on my channel, I'm doing like a 90s retrospective. I do a happy hour show each week, and I'm going through year by year. It's 93 this week, so I'm revisiting a lot of my favourite 90s rock as we speak.
Awesome. Well, I think we've got something in the show for you then today, which is going to be very
happy
interesting.
Times.
Yeah. But we'll go to the first song. I will read out the email from the artist, and then we'll have a listen to the song. He says his name is Otis Isaacs. In fact, let's just pop that up. Let's be professional. Pop that
You
up
normally
on the
make me
screen.
read it. Otis Isaacs.
Oh, I've got one
Circles.
for you to read later on. Don't worry.
That's no.
I'll do the first two. You can do the last one, just to be fair. Okay. So, my name is Otis Isaacs. I'm a pop rap artist from the United States. I would love it if you could play my song Circles on your show, Fix My Mitch. I've started mixing and mastering. I started mixing and mastering in Cool Edit Pro 2.
Respect.
Somebody was saying to me today, let's go off topic already. Somebody was saying, sorry, Otis, because you were asking on your show earlier, which people should watch the replay of if they didn't catch the live show. And it wasn't all a blur, even though Pete Johns is all a blur at the moment. But he was for a moment. But you were asking about doors and things. Now, there are some pieces of software that people use which are not really doors, like Cool Edit Pro. And someone was saying to me in the comments, the reason they don't use a DAW anymore and they only record in those kinds of pieces of software, which are really audio processing software more than anything else rather than a DAW, is that they're not being forced by the tempo map feature to do things in a certain way, that they use it like a tape machine, basically, don't they? And they do that on purpose. This person does that on purpose so that they're not being pushed in directions by a DAW. How interesting. We should have said that on your show rather than on this show. Going back to going back to Otis. Sorry, Otis.
Do you know that a tangent is mathematically like that's the intersection between like two different... Sorry, I thought we were getting off track again.
So Otis started mixing mastering in Cool Edit Pro. He used it up until around about February of this year, and he says, since then I've been using Cakewalk by BandLab, and your videos are the main reason. Why, thank you, Otis. That's very kind of you to say so. I didn't have to read that bit out, but I did. Your videos are the main reason I've been able to transition doors and create better sounding mixes. Now, I originally started strictly as an artist, just writing lyrics and recording them. But due to certain circumstances, I've had to start mixing myself, and I need a lot of help. Something isn't clicking in the mastering phase, and I'm having a difficult time getting the sound that I want. So that's where Otis is at. I always think it's wonderful when we've got people who haven't been doing this for very long. To hear what they've achieved in a short period of time. So let's see where Otis is at in that score.
I would rather run in circles holding your hand than deal with what I'm dealing with. It wasn't my plan to have you out there running without me. And now I wonder if you even think about me. I would rather run in circles holding your hand than deal with what I'm dealing with. It wasn't my plan to have you out there running without me. And now I wonder if you even think about me. Looking for the right words, can go on for days. Hold it in till it hurts, then explode with rage. All the times I had a chance, I was too afraid. And now look at me, I regret everything. I'm all petty when it comes to this. Feel like shit, I'm already trying not to wreck. I tried so hard, but I can't seem to clean up my mess. Everything we said to each other ain't none of this. I don't know about you, but I know about me. I'm all alone and I just fall on my knees. Beg the moonlight to help me please. Hurts my insides and I can't breathe. I really don't know what my problem be. Maybe it's all the missed opportunities, it's gotta be. Was it something I said or didn't do? I think probably. All I know is that life ain't what it ought to be. Cause I would rather run in circles holding your hand than deal with what I'm dealing with. It wasn't my plan to have you out there running without me. And now I wonder if you even think about me. I would rather run in circles holding your hand than deal with what I'm dealing with. It wasn't my plan to have you out there running without me. And now I wonder if you even think about me. I don't really know what to do anymore. My heart fell off my sleeve and onto the floor. And I can feel it all the way to my core. Try to ignore all the pain, it ain't the same like before. Try to avoid the drama, it got us just being honest. Talking about it ain't doing nothing but breaking promise. Talking about being honest ain't different than being heartless. When both of us are being lethargic, won't try our hardest. I told you how I thought that this would turn out. Riding around the world together and we putting it down. Listen to our favorite music and we singing out loud. Now look, we done held back till no one's around. It's okay cause maybe one day you'll start to walk down my way. And by the time your feet hurt, you find your way to my place. Now tell me, don't that sound great? Just a few things that we say. If I'm not running with you, then running don't feel the same. So, would you rather run in circles holding my hand than deal with what you dealing with? Or was it your plan to be out here running without me? Tell me if you even ever think about me. Would you rather run in circles holding my hand than deal with what you dealing with? Or was it your plan to be out here running without me? Tell me if you even ever think about me. Cause I would rather run in circles holding your hand than deal with what I'm dealing with. It wasn't my plan to have you out there running without me. And now I wonder if you even think about me. I would rather run in circles holding your hand than deal with what I'm dealing with. It wasn't my plan. Have you out there running without me? Do you even ever think about me?
I'm going to go to Mr. Johns first to see what was happening over there. I saw a little bit of a groove happening there.
I liked the groove. I thought it was super groovy. It was a cool beat. I love I mean, it's very cool right now, very hip right now, the retro kind of tape warble kind of effect that you had going on there. Very lo-fi, very cool. So I liked the beat. not a heap of variation with the beat, so I probably would love to hear a little bit more variation. I'll talk a little bit about what I think you could add in there. What a lot of folks were saying in the chat, and what I'd agree with, is that the bass was a little lacking. So you could hear the kick drum kicking through reasonably well, but yeah, it just was lacking the bass. And I really think that probably a sub bass is really what I'm looking for, something that's really going to sort of rattle the bones down at that low end. So, and what I've found in a lot of music, that I don't produce this sort of music, but sometimes adding a second bass that's an octave lower, that's that sub bass, that just driving it can really help with that. So the low end was a little bit missing there, and that kick is just crying out for a big juicy bass to help it out. Also at the top end, I thought the whole thing was a little bit mid-rangey. So there's a lot of stuff going in the mid-range in both the beat and the vocals, and that kind of crowded it a little bit there. I think it could have really used some toppers, either some arpeggiated sort of sounds or synth sounds up the top there, or just like a hi-hat. I was sort of missing sort of that sort of high-end energy as well as that low-end energy. So I think that when the artist said at the start, when they're hitting this mastering phase, I think that's the key thing, is that it doesn't have a heap of range in that frequency spectrum. So there's not a lot going at the bottom, not a lot in the top. It's all kind of sitting in the middle. One thing that I really like in this sort of song, and the vocals was probably the other big thing, the big call out for me. I thought they were probably a good 4 or 5 dB too low. I think they just needed to come up in the mix, or maybe a little compression, because they did sort of have a bit of variation there. So maybe a compressor there to level out and lift the overall gain of those vocals could work well. And because the core, I really love the hook, but the hook was the same every time. So I'd love like a melodic enhancement of that hook. And what I mean by that is either what a lot of artists will do is they'll do an octave up vocal, like a background octave up vocal, or even a lead instrument like a synth or something doing that like at the same time as you're doing that, just to complement and to give you that top end stuff. So I mean, really good song, really, really catchy, really good hook, really good beat. You're close. It's like 80% there. I think just those 20% enhancement could take it to the next level. What say you, Mr. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like overall, so I'd say to Otis, great job if you've only been using Cakewalk, for a few months, and if you've produced all of that instrumentation, sounded great. A lot of people said they love the synth, and I agree with that.
Yep.
And it's 80% there. Don't want to go on about, because there's so much I agreed with what you said and what was said in the chat. Definitely the bass itself, the kick was great, but the bass was not matching it and wasn't punching with it, which was, is probably going to be the main takeaway. The vocals. So what was happening with the vocals for me is they were, first of all, too quiet in general. But I could almost hear some of the different takes. There was a couple of lines here and there which sounded as though they hadn't been recorded at the same time, unless you suddenly went closer to the mic, which I don't think you did. So that's, I'm not going to say automation for that. You mentioned compression. I wouldn't use compression to fix that, because we're talking about like whole phrases which stood out. So I would be looking possibly at automation, but if you're using Cakewalk, then I would look at clip automation. So in a lot of DAWs, you have this where you've got your different clips, and you've probably got them broken down into different phrases, what have you, and you can just raise at the clip level so that you're not mucking around with your mixer when you're doing it. So I would fix, like my approach with vocals is to, first of all, edit them, get rid of any crap that shouldn't be there. And then the next stage is always clip edits to get a kind of a balance between everything. And then from there, I'll use compression and perhaps automation. But so Otis, I think that's, you need to look at that with some of those phrases. And first of all, I want to say the width was nice in this. It wasn't an overly wide track, but there was some nice width in that, and I was enjoying the sort of stereo image there. But I think that if you were to take a look at the vocal level and the level, first of all, of the bass, then you're there.
Yeah.
Now the only thing with mixing is it's a bit sometimes you fix one thing and it does just there's a possibility here, especially with bass, that when you bring that up and then when you bring your vocal up, that other things start to go a bit skewy. So do these in some slightly gentle moves to begin with, I would say. Yeah. At the first, but all in all, I thought it was a great start. I do like to have this sort of genre on the show. We don't have enough of it, and it's so representative of what music is doing at the moment. It seems silly to me that we don't have enough of it. So thanks, Otis, for sending it in and giving us the opportunity, even though we're evidently not kind of artists of this type of music.
True.
The final thing I'll say is, because you may listen to this and think it was a rap song, he wasn't rapping at all. There was melody in what he was doing.
Yep.
And almost what you said, Pete, I think this song for me, I think it was about 3.5 minutes long, and it was interesting for about 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And there was a little bit towards the end there where you went, okay, there's one too many repeats here. And it wasn't so much that there was too many repeats, is that you could have done a variation on that vocal. And one of the other things, apart from what Pete mentioned, is sometimes you'll sing what would be a harmony to the lead vocal, but then you make that harmony the kind of melody for the final chorus. Yeah? So I don't want to actually sing it because it's too early in the morning to sing it. But yeah, something like that would you do a real treat there. Or even, putting another vocal line underneath, which is perhaps saying something different, something going on there.
A bit of an ad-lib, I think
a
they
little
call it.
thing going on. Yeah, a bit of an ad-lib in there. Something just to do that final lift as you finish off, Otis. Then you'll hold people for the whole of that song, actually, I think.
Or you could do the what you talked about in your recent video, that whole just shift everything up a tone for that last chorus, like they did in the 80s. Every song just went up in a different key,
that would
just
be
gives
weird,
it.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be a
don't
bit
do
weird.
that, Otis.
Don't do that.
Add a saxophone solo.
And a saxophone solo. There was someone asking in the chat about that sort of muddiness. So when you start adding things in, how do you avoid that muddiness? And Thomas Christ had a good point that a good low cut or what's called a high pass filter on a lot of your other tracks. So once you add your bass, if you find it all gets into this big muddy mess, take a look at your EQ on your vocal tracks and your synth tracks and that sort of thing, and just make sure, especially your vocals, because we're not all recording in a perfect environment. If you've got like trucks going past, or you've got rumbling, or you've got electrical ground loops and things like that, just adding that high pass or low cut filter can really help reduce that low end rumble in tracks that shouldn't have it, which means your kick and your bass and your low end tracks are going to have that real kick and have space.
Another little suggestion there in the chat is from Nomad Tribe. I quite like this. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong comment there. Add distortion to a vocal on a bass. You could do something like that.
I love that.
Just anything you can do, just to create that little bit of variation, Otis, because it's like a good thing and a bad thing. Music does need repetition sometimes, so that creates a sort of a familiarity. But then that's the danger side of it, is when we start to repeat. You always want to have something at least subtly changing, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our next song. But before we do listen to the next song, of course, Otis, when you do release this, make sure you go ahead and use mine and Pete's favourite and only place. Let's face it, I don't know anyone else who... I'm not even kidding. Everybody I ask is who's releasing music. I say who you're, and they say, DistroKid.
I'm actually moving my stuff. I've had some old stuff on Amuse, another distributor, and sorry Amuse, but I've actually just removed it and I'm about to put it up on DistroKid. So I'm moving everything. I'm putting all my eggs in the DistroKid basket because they're just that good.
And the only reason I know about CD Baby these days is because of their irritating copyright claims.
They put Content ID
YouTube.
on everything. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So use DistroKid. We're not here to bag the competition.
No, absolutely. Like use who you like, but use DistroKid.
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy. Follow the link in the description and you'll go here. If you do follow the link in the description down below, it's going to take you to a special page on DistroKid with this yellow banner at the top. That banner is letting you know that you're going to get a further 7% discount off your first year if you sign up here. And let's face it, it's already very cheap. If we scroll down, we can see that a year's membership is $19.99 per year for an unlimited number of albums and songs. And so long as it's your own music, there are no extra charges, and you get to keep all of the royalties from the various platforms. Platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, Pandora, Amazon, Instagram, Tidal, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and more. Matt Phillips has this song which called Captain. I think you'd have to say Captain Poverty.
Is that like Captain Crunch?
Either there was a typo in the email or he's been very clever. And I just copied and pasted it, so don't blame me, folks. But I think it's probably supposed to be like that, because he had that in the file name of the song. There's that as well. But anyway, this is a bit unusual because, well, not unusual. We've had songs on the show before which don't have lyrics on them, which are going to have lyrics. And I think the last time I did that, I had Dan and Ricky on the show, and they commented on how difficult it was to assess a song when the vocals are missing, because, it could change things about the mix. And I agree with that. And sometimes when people send mixes like that in, I don't play it for that reason. But I did feel compelled to play this one and I think the reason why is that this artist has the lyrics prepared, and I think they know what the melody is going to be. They're not a singer themselves. And they've been trying to find a singer. I think they've tried 5. I'll read the email in a moment. We'll find out. But
okay.
But so just interestingly, perhaps there's someone who's either in the live chat at the moment or is watching on the replay who thinks that their vocals may fit this. But I think that does make a difference. I do think that the fact that he sent me a whole lyric sheet, Matt Phillips, on this, so he's obviously got it planned. Now, let me read it out. He says, the song I'm uploading in this email sounds much like 2000s rock. It was a style I was going for, and I feel I've achieved it. I use Cakewalk for everything, and this is where I am after starting for the first time about 2 years ago. I put a lot of time and energy into this one. I worked on the mix for 2 months until I felt like it was good enough. But I hope that you can give me some pointers, maybe on EQ or something. It's called Captain Poverty, but really it is a good message in there with the lyrics. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here because I can't read. This is the instrumental version I'm sending here, but I do have lyrics which I can include in the message. He did, and I'm not going to read them out. I did hire someone from Fiverr, but they didn't really create the right vibe. I'm getting ready to hire someone different. Just don't have the extra funds yet. Okay. The song is about the little man in society. I assume you're a little man, are you, Pete? I've never really. I don't know how tall you are, but I'm assuming you're a little man. Are you a little man? How tall are you?
My nickname was Big Pete in high school, so not
Okay.
that little.
Right.
5'11", Mark. Thanks for asking. Medium.
Well, you're actually taller than me, by the way.
Okay. Because I'm always sitting. You've never seen me stand. I may not have legs for all you know.
Maybe you don't have legs.
We started a horrible rumor on Jane's channel that she has no feet because we've never seen her feet on her channel. So now I don't have legs. No, it's not true because we chat while I walk. Whenever I talk to Mike off camera, I'm always walking around. So,
Yeah. You always look short to me in your video. I always thought, he's a little man. Anyway, the song's
you know what
about a little
tangent
man.
is when two things meet. Sorry, getting off on tangents all day.
It's about the little man in society these days, always trying to survive and live in a system designed to keep the rich in power. I don't know about these days, by the way, Matt, like forever that's been the case. But anyway, we get political now. Designed to keep the rich in power and feeling there's no way to actually get out. Just working every day, even dreaming about work. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I think you are completely correct about that. So, first of all, maybe Pete Johns could be your next singer. I don't know. Maybe he'll sing along. I'm going to mute his mic, but
You'll see me if I'm singing. I do have a habit of doing that when I hear a cool instrumental. I just sing along. One of my viewers, Trevor Bear, who I think I saw in the chat earlier, he did an instrumental and I loved it so much. I'd sang along and then he said, hey, can you sing on this? And I wrote lyrics and sang on it. So it does happen. And I know you've got many people in your group, so maybe join the Facebook group and put it out there and there might be a cool singer just hiding in the weeds.
I'm gonna say, and I don't normally do this, I'll keep my opinions later, but even though this is obviously lacking vocals, I really enjoyed listening to this track. I just have to say that.
Nice.
Anyway, we'll have a listen. See how it goes.
on. That's cool. I like it.
Always guess first here, Pete. So
Ooh, yeah. I mean, when you start with some chugga chugga guitars, I'm in the zone already. You already got me. So yeah, really dug it. Definitely encapsulated that sort of late '90s, early 2000s pop punk rock kind of vibe that was going on. So. I dug on that. I thought the drums were nice. Like, they were doing enough, but not too much, if that makes sense. So sometimes drums in these sort of tracks, the drummers try to do too much, or the drum tracks are too full on, and sometimes they're just you can hear that they're a virtual drum pattern that's really not changed. I think the fills were just enough to complement the track. So yeah, a lot of good stuff going on there. In terms of what stood out to me. The bass was a little bit missing on this one as well, and I think this time, instead of it being that you could hear the kick and you couldn't hear the bass, I think because the guitars were because it was in C major, the guitars were so low in some parts, it was kind of drowning out. It was sort of overpowering, and there's a lot of low end in those big crunchy distorted guitars, and I think the bass was there. And funnily enough, in the second verse, the bass kind of stood out a bit. I think the bass was doing a slightly different pattern later in the song, and I could hear it a little bit better.
So you basically think the low end of the guitars was masking the bass?
I think so.
Yeah, I think
right. That's what I'm sort of feeling. So, and I don't know. First thing that comes to mind is I think a lot of people are too scared when they've got low chugga guitars. Bring the bass up the octave and do the doo 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 doo. I think it could sound really cool with the bass up full octave, because a bass on a low C, which I don't know if the bass did go down to the low C for those C chords, but it sounded really low, and it just seemed to conflict a little bit. So love to find a way to pull that bass out a little bit. Guitar tone was really good. Loved the guitar tones. Loved the sounds of the guitars. The only thing I'd say about that is that it sounded the same on both sides. So the guitar tone and the EQing sounded very similar. So you did get the wall of guitar sound, but I love, this is my personal preference maybe, but I love a wall of guitar where you've got a different tone. You've got like a Fender on the right and a Marshall on the left.
Wider. It sounds
wider.
It
does. It just gives that variation. And because it was played so well, like clearly Matt's a really good guitarist, if this is him playing, the doubled guitars sounded almost identical. Like they were really well in the zone and in the pocket, which can actually mean that it almost sounds a little bit too artificial. So I would love to hear a different sound on one side to the other. And that can be as simple as like doing some EQing. Graham Cochran did a video ages ago where if you just basically scoop the mids on your left guitar and boost the mids on your right guitar,
that's right.
you can create that.
Just to explain that a bit further, so what you can do is pick a frequency, say, 1,000 hertz, you've got one guitar and you think, I feel like it would sound good if I boosted it 1,000 by 3 decibels. Then if you happen to have recorded the guitars exactly the same, then reduce it by 3 decibels at exactly that frequency on the other side, and then pick one to boost on one side and one to... It kind of works pretty well like that.
It does. Just create some space. Or we're in the world of virtual amp sims, so literally just change up the mic or the amp sim or the tone of one side or the other, or even just use a slightly different distortion, use an overdriven tone on one and a distortion or DS1 type of distortion on the other. That was the one thing. I think that could just create a bit of a wider sound. Liked the solo. That was fun. Like I put here, fun solo. Like I love the like coming in with a solo like that then builds. I liked it. I too needed to hear the vocals. I could hear the vocals in my head, and I actually love this because I think this could start simple with a simple vocal, go into the first chorus, and I really hear it building. I hear some oohs and ahs, and I'm just saying that because maybe when you got the vocalist to record it, I don't think this song's going to sound right with just one vocalist singing one note the whole way through. No. Definitely needs some harmony in that second verse and second chorus, and definitely needs probably 3 or 4 parts of dude. Like I could hear that like a do 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 do, like someone doing.
You need the works thrown at it. I think you need that lead vocal with doubles on the choruses, and you need harmonies, and like you say, some oohs and things like that going on. It needs to be a thick.
It's got to be a big epic ending, because it's starting so well and it's so high energy that there's nowhere to go with that unless you can sort of build on it. So I think, doing a little bit of work around those guitars. And the other thing, the guitars were super thick and super chunky. And I think that could be the challenge you'll get to once you start adding in the vocals. And I think you mentioned this earlier, that it's hard to think of a mix until you add the vocals. I think you'll probably need to pull back on those guitars because they're pretty intense once you start adding vocals, because that mid-range is going to start getting very busy around that area. So you might need to just sort of pull that back a little bit. But I love the song. I think it's really, really cool.
I
It's
thought
right
it
up
was
my
really
alley.
interesting actually because I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear this song because I think the fact that
Yeah.
he has written the lyrics and I suspect the melody and things beforehand, I could hear the sections of the song. I could hear, oh, this part's obviously the chorus and this is the pre-chorus and what have you was going on there.
Yeah.
So it was, despite it being instrumental and pretty much the same lineup of instruments all the way through, there was defined sections. I think it's got structure to it, which
Yeah.
is super important. The vocals could kill, or you need a good vocalist on this. You're not a good vocalist, but the right vocalist.
Yeah.
Just because it's a sort of a rock sound. I mean, yeah, it's just my personal opinion. I'd be thinking Green Day vocals rather than Bon Jovi vocals.
I
on
was
this.
thinking, Green Day, Blink 182,
Yeah, all that
that
stuff.
California punk Offspring, that California punk style,
Yep.
definitely.
Something that sounds like it's got a little bit of attitude going on in it, rather than being so much melodically perfect or tuneful in that way.
Yeah.
I think it's got the makings of being a great show. I don't have much to add. Some people were saying some things, the low end for sure, but be careful with that because it could be, as Pete Johns was saying, that you've got those guitars masking it. Electric guitars are very interesting. A lot of people I probably think get that perfect guitar tone. They've got their amp and they play in isolation. That's not probably the sound that you want in a mix. It's not going to work in a mix. There's a kind of a narrow band of frequencies which work well with electric guitars. And maybe that's what's gone on there with those guitars. Maybe with all that low end in the guitar, it sounds great when you've been playing it by yourself and practicing the riffs, but
Yeah.
in the mix, no, you need to create that space for the bass guitar there. So
Spot
that
on.
could be happening there. But anyway, overall, I just really, really loved this, weirdly. I just sort of think I can just hear so much potential in this as a song.
Yeah, I would go listen to a song by a band called Jimmy Eat World called The Middle. It reminds me of this song, and I think if I was bringing in a song while I was mixing or mastering this as a reference track, I would bring in some Jimmy Eat World because the vocalist from Jimmy Eat World has exactly that sound we were talking about before, and that's a similar kind of song to this. It's got the chugga chugga guitars, it's got the real heavy distortion, but it has like that variety and it has really good bass and drums. So that's another tip because referencing songs can really help you learn that guitar tone because you might be thinking, like you say, guitar tone sounds great when I'm just playing it on my Marshall or my Fender. As soon as you try and bring in a bass, it gets super muddy. So
Now I'm almost tempted to say with this particular one, do take the advice that we've given you. And there was some opinions, it's slightly differing here and there in the chat. So Matt, I would take a look at that and see what you want to incorporate. But I'd hazard a guess that if we hadn't been critiquing it and this had the right vocal on it, we may not think about any of these things. I think it's sort of obviously it needs a vocal, but I kind of think that when it's got the right vocal on there, it's pretty much releasable. It's so close there to being releasable. So yeah, vocal, some artwork, and then do this. If you want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Do you want to hear some cool things about DistroKid? A couple of things I was thinking while that promo was happening.
Yeah.
Number one is DistroKid Splits is 100% free. So if Matt collaborates with another artist and wants to release this with DistroKid, they can split the revenue. They can agree, all right, you get 30, I get 70 because you did the vocals, and they can just put that straight in, and it's all managed completely automatically. So that's another reason to use DistroKid. And for my mobile creator friends, I did a video this week. The DistroKid website previously wasn't mobile optimized. They have updated it, improved it. You can now release directly from your phone. So Android or iPhone or iPad, you don't need a computer anymore if you're a mobile creator.
People have needed that for quite some time, so I'm glad it's here. I'm glad that can be happening now. Now, we as English-speaking Westerners are very, very lazy when it comes to other languages, aren't we?
100%.
We basically don't listen to music in foreign languages. If it had subtitles, we might do, but how can you do that? That's not possible. We sometimes watch movies occasionally. Look, we'd prefer a voiceover than subtitles because subtitles means we have to read. So even the voiceover might be dodgy. But unfortunately, the artist for this song didn't provide a voiceover in English. So it is going to be in Danish for us. So unfortunately, I'm trying to point out to the fact that aren't English-speaking people so lazy when it comes to taking on board art which is not in English?
I agree. I try to. Like, we get a lot of people submitting songs in other languages on the show that I do, Your Music Live, and I love playing them because I don't know. It's almost like more of a jigsaw puzzle, and when you don't hear the lyrics, you actually sort of listen more to the music anyway. I tend to find. So I don't know. Maybe we'll find
That's exactly the point I was about to make. It's a good exercise for people in the chat at the moment and people watching on the replay to listen to this, because you're going to hone into the mix in a different way than if you were listening to something in your own language. But talking about our laziness, I'd like to demonstrate that Pete Johnson's not lazy. I'm going to let him read out the final name of the final song today.
This is Hans Kron with Navi Seigan.
I think you actually said that really well. It gets repeated in the song a fair amount, I think you actually did a good job there. Anyway, Hans wrote me a lovely email. He said, I hope you're well. I am, thank you, Hans. The song is about a Danish summer. It's about remembering a summer and the nice time we spent together with the nice time he spent together with his summer love. Now, he just can't wait till it's summer again. The language is going to be a problem, I guess, but I hope you enjoy it anyway. He said, it was written, produced and played by me, Hans Henrik, in collaboration with Carlos Molina Lopez, who plays the bass, all in Cakewalk. And it was sent for a mix to Nina in Denmark, who is operating in Logic Pro. If you want more details, you can blah, 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 blah. Let's have a listen to this and see what we think of this mix. And again, for people in the chat, I'm loving hearing your opinions today. I know there's about 30 or so of you watching. I am hearing opinions from about 6 of you, so everybody else, don't be quite so shy, okay? You might say the most valuable thing yet. Let's have a listen to this song.
kan ikke følge med, hvor jeg savner dig. Nu glæden på vej, det ved at vende sig i kærlighedens navn. Sammen igen, tid, det vil være sammen. Kom lad os prøve igen, det passer ind i rammen. Hvor vi skal hen, lad følelser finde vej, når vi ses igen. La la la, la la la, la la la. Når vi ses igen, la la la, la la la, la la la. Når vi ses igen, la la la, la la la, la la la. Hvor vi skal hen, lad følelser finde vej, når vi ses igen.
What a
I
bop.
just thought I'd let that just sit there
Yeah.
in silence for a moment. Bit of an awkward silence. How dare someone remind us of summer? It's freezing here. Look, I've got the first time I've worn a hoodie this year, DistroKid hoodie. I've got here.
Nice.
Pete, you're
Very
still in a
fashionable.
t-shirt. Is
I'm
it
still. It's actually freezing. I forgot to put a jumper on before the show. But yeah, no, it is. It's about 9 degrees here today, so it's very very cold.
Oh, yeah, and when people say to you from different countries, perhaps if someone was contacting you from Denmark, and they might say, you say it's cold here, and they say, well, how cold is it? And you say it's 9 degrees, and they go,
I know.
what do you mean 9 degrees is cold?
They'll be like,
In
"Oh,
Aus-
so you go to the beach today then? Because that's fine.
yeah, if you live in the UK, that's totally, that's
Shirts
summer.
off, down to the
If
beach."
it's one day of 9 degrees in England, that's what they call summer. That was the whole
And then they
season.
go to what they call a beach, which is just a bunch of pebbles next to some water. But anyway. Hi to all my UK friends. It's too
They're
late.
not
They're all
here.
asleep.
Time
They're all
zone.
asleep.
They're all asleep. Oh no, there's the replay. Oh, crap.
Oh shit! I mean, I swore. There you go. I got the first swear on your
There
channel.
you go. Okay, you'll get revenge against us with the Ashes. Go on then.
All right.
Or maybe
Yeah.
not.
What a fun song.
It was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, just from the word go, it was just fun. It was a summer jam, and I dug it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it had really good melodies and harmonies, and was just a bop. I love the synth sounds in there, like a lot going on, but not so much that it got distracting. It was just enough to I don't know. It felt like a Ben Lee jam. Like I don't know,
Yeah, it
people
was a
don't
little
know
bit,
don't know Ben Lee, but just the hand claps in there, like as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
like
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
everything, little Catch My Disease kind of style there. So yeah, really love that. The chorus. Had a middle eight, had a bridge or
Yes,
a middle
I
eight,
did,
or
didn't it?
Did,
Had
yeah,
a
so-
couple actually. I think.
yeah. So really enjoyed that. I thought that was cool. I thought the bass and the drums were actually linked in nice and tight in this one, like not overpowering, but they had their own space, which was good in the track. What would I do differently, or what would I work on here? Vocals. Now, I'll preface this by saying that in the chorus, especially the final chorus, the vocals sounded really good. But the challenge there was, I think that there was no volume changes or automation changes between the verses and the chorus. And in your verses, we only had the one vocal. And then when you had the double vocal and the backing vocals come in the choruses, it sounded much fuller. But I think, and it's a mistake a lot of folks make, myself included, well and truly, is that you don't vary that vocal. Sometimes you think, oh, go in the chorus, the vocals have got to go up. But when a double and when backing vocals come in, your vocal actually needs to go up in the verses because it's on its own. It's like out there doing its thing.
Yeah.
And I thought when I first heard that, as soon as it kicked in, it was so high energy, it was right in your face, and then the vocals kind of just felt a bit distant. They felt in the background and they weren't sitting up there up front. So don't know whether that needs some automation, some volume, just some gain up there, or some compression just to really give it a bit of guts, but it just sort of sat a little bit behind for me. So yeah, a bit more upfront there. I think I mentioned the space before, and you know me, Mike. I've said this a bunch. I like to create a song that feels like everything's in the same space. And I just felt that there was perhaps a little bit of maybe some reverb or some delay that could be added into a lot of those tracks, like that, especially the vocals, just to make everything sit like it was in a space. I thought it just sounded like the vocals. You know, sometimes vocals either sit on top or sit behind a track. So you've got the instrumentals, and then the vocals aren't part of that track. I just thought that playing around with some delay and some reverb on especially those vocals could really work well. I think once you came into the final chorus with that fullness, it sounded much better, but when it was there by itself, that was a bit of a challenge. That's really all I really had from this. Like I say, it was a really fun song. I think if you brought those vocals up a little bit there, that's about the only thing I can say. I love the ad-libs too, like the counter vocals. That final chorus, that was just a blast. That was things going everywhere. You had the nice little counters on the off parts when you weren't singing the main part. And for a song that wasn't in another language, I completely understood the vibe and the intention of the song, which I think is really cool. So that's me.
I think that if the goal was to make a song which made us think about summer, or I should say, what we typically think about summer, which is happy times and what have you, then it's certainly done that. And I think that there was a slightly dark part in the middle. Maybe it was that middle eight where things got a bit darker. I'm not sure what the lyrics were there, but it was that was good. So what I mean is this song actually, whatever you say about it, it worked on some sort of emotional level, right?
Yeah.
It affected you in some way, which is why we make music. So it was good in that way. I did make some notes that I felt that just overall, just as an overall thing, I don't want to say this is a mastering thing, but I think the whole thing was a little bit too light sounding, okay? Almost weak is probably what I would say. And I think that so much of this song existed in the middle frequencies, really, for me, from what I was hearing on these headphones. So a little bit, it's hard to say, because in some parts I felt the actual bass guitar was a bit too loud. But the whole, I'm not just talking about a single instrument, I'm talking about the whole thing just could do with a bit more down that lower end. And on the very, very highs, I'm talking about the airy highs, okay? Not your sort of 4 or 5K, but up above that, or like to your sort of 10Ks and stuff. There could just be a little bit of sparkle in there. But yeah, I thought the vocals, there was a couple of things about the vocals. What I was originally going to say was they were just too quiet in places. And also I felt they maybe had too many effects on them. Sometimes when people were not feeling confident about their vocals, now I could be wrong about this, but it sounded to me like they may have used a widening plug-in on the vocals rather than actually doing doubling and making them wider. And it was just a little too wide for me at times. It didn't feel focused enough with the vocals. But then somebody said, and I just pop this up on the screen, and now I thought, they said it much better than me. The singer is too shy, especially in the verse. You can sing, go for it. So true. We're thinking about mixing, but there may be a performance issue with this vocal when we're hearing it's too quiet. It just may be that the singer is just not going for it. They obviously can sing. So if you're listening, Hands, or watching Hands, and you think, maybe I do lack a little bit of confidence sometimes, there's those telltale signs there. There's a little bit of performance and maybe over-processing, which you've done to compensate because perhaps you're not feeling overly confident in your vocals. So I'm afraid to say, I hate to say this on a mixing show, that you may want to retract those vocals for that reason.
Yep.
If vocals are pitch perfect and all that, but they don't deliver in performance, you got to retract. We haven't got a plug-in to fix that, really. There's a couple of things you can do here and there, but
it's the old "get it right at the source," isn't it? It's the old Joe Gilder quote from way back when. But I think that's exactly it. And the couple of things that you said there, and Doug said that stereo wideness can give some phasing weirdness, and
yes,
I think that's
do.
Almost what I was hearing. That because I heard it as distant. It almost sounded like they were back from the mic, and you were getting a bit of sort of room reverberation in there. But it could have just been that. It could have been a combination of those things of not singing at 100%, and I think I said this last time I was on the show, but you can really hear when someone is singing within themselves at like 70 or 80% because just the delivery, like if I'm talking to you like this versus talking to you like this, there's a difference in that tone, and you can never, there's nothing you can do to change your inflection and to change the projection of your voice. There isn't a projection plug-in yet. Maybe one day, but at the moment, you may need to go back and re-record some of those vocals. And it's a good opportunity again. Like the beauty of the digital world is that you got unlimited retries. So you're not paying for studio time. You can plug in your microphone and experiment. Try and do it when no one's around, because this is the problem. Like a lot of us, when you start out, you might be a little bit, a little bit self-conscious, but just make sure, just wait till everyone's out of the house and, lock yourself away and then just sing like nobody's watching and listening. Because
even if you just do that for one take, right? If you're a little bit shy and you think, oh, maybe I shouldn't be too weird and crazy, record your normal take, but then just for one go, look, I'm just going to go nuts on this, You'd be surprised. Sometimes you can blend in the odd scream and that with a regular vocal, and you can get some great. I'm glad that Doug brought that up about phasing stuff. We often hear people talk about mixing in mono. One of the reasons you should at least be checking in mono is if you've used any stereo widening plugins, because you can get phasing issues with them. When you listen to the track in mono, it's going to become more apparent to you if those issues are there. So for those of you who don't know or don't understand, when we get two very similar waveforms, which are or maybe identical waveforms, but could be very similar, and their timing is out with each other. When one's going up and one's going down, there's a cancellation effect. It happens similar to like reversing the polarity, not the same, but similar to reversing polarity.
Yes.
And then suddenly all the life disappears out of the track. And if you apply stereo widening to a whole track, yes, as Danny's saying here, phase cancellation as it's sometimes called, then you get this effect of it can still be there, the instrument is still there, but it's just lacking oomph. And that's a problem when you get tempted to use stereo widening or even doubling plugins on vocals can be an issue with this. So.
Yeah, and it is actually similar technology used for noise cancelling headphones too. So there is a use for phase cancellation and for things like that, because that's what noise cancelling is. It's sampling the sound and replaying the sound at a reverse polarity to remove it. Absolutely. So it's a handy thing too. But yeah, I think it's really, really cool. I had another point, but I've completely forgotten it now. But just go for it. Just record, and then you can release using DistroKid.
Drums. Can I mention drums on
yes,
this?
You can.
Did you have any notes about drums on this?
I didn't, but they were not. No, all I said was that the drums and the bass seemed to just sort of. I don't think they did much, so I don't know if that's your comment on that. But they were non-threatening. Like I didn't really hear them. So maybe.
Well, my thought was this: is that I think they're programmed drums. It's so weird these days, and it's a good thing actually that sometimes on this show I'm listening and I'm thinking I'm about to criticise the drum programming, and maybe that was a real drum. But I think these were programmed drums. And the thing that struck me is that you've put so much. I think there's actually quite a lot of work went into the drums in terms of programming them, but not quite enough. I'd say go back and have a listen to some of those snare fills, Hans, or Hans, however you pronounce it. I think there was a couple in there were and they were all exactly the same velocity. When you do that sort of snare fill roll, and they were sounding a little bit machine gunnish to me. Yeah. So it's really, you've done so much work on these drums with some fills and things like that. And I think that it might be worth going in and just finishing that off a little bit here.
Yeah.
If it's a real drummer, then don't I look like an idiot? They'll just,
it's just a very Ringo Starr style drummer that can just sit in the zone and
they can do that. But if it's a real drummer and that's their fill, then okay.
Nice. Yeah, no, I like it. I'll have to listen again because for some reason I wasn't paying attention to the drums, which is weird. Sorry to Ed Thorne and other drummers. I don't listen to drums that much. They're not that important. That's what I've been told. I remember the one other point that I had, around that that a lot of people are looking for a reason. Like we've all seen that, shift it to one left, one right, do the slight tuning, do the slight changing thing. There's so many people that are just trying to I've recorded my vocal and it's perfect and I just want to use that. Just record multiple vocals. Just keep recording take after take and use them as your doubles and your triples and your quadruples.
Yeah, that's right,
Because
yeah.
if you want to get a nice stereo sound on your vocal, just record your lead vocal, put that down the middle, and then triple it up. Record one, put it on the left, one on the right, blend those in, do what we said in the last one, add some distortion or something just to kind of give it a little bit more feel, and then use that, because you're going to have much less phasing issues. You're going to have less problems with plugins and performance and all that sort of stuff. So
Little
don't be
thing, just a
afraid.
little time-saving thing that I do on that, because I definitely advocate in a lot of music doing doubles,
Yep.
especially on your choruses, but you could use them anyway. And just a little time-saving tip. I think that most of us should be doing comping as well, not just for vocals, but for other things. But yeah, so what I do is I record the lead vocal, and often those little passages that I'm not going to be using in my final comp, although I didn't think they were good enough for the main vocal line, they are good enough for the double.
Yep.
So I keep them and I use them. And the other trick you can do is say you've got a repeating chorus, maybe got it 3 times in the song, then use the version from your first chorus and use that as the double for your second and the third chorus. Be economical with
Absolutely.
it. So you really only have to record often, I'm going to say 3 or 4 takes, and you'll have enough material there to create all of these things. And even sometimes, I've never done it, but I definitely want to give it a try, and I know people do, is use something like Melodyne to create a harmony here and there if you want to grab one of those. The important thing is, I won't say I've never done it. I've done it a little bit here and there. I mean, me and Susie love to sing harmonies, so we enjoy it. But if you find that it's not convenient, the trick is that if you use Melodyne to create a harmony, don't just grab your main vocal line and then just change the pitch. Use one of the other performances. It has to be a different performance, like with doubling, and then change the pitch of that. You can get away with it more often than you think.
It's true. And yeah, even the octave, like we talked about in that first track, that can be great for octaving. Like just put the whole thing up a whole octave just in the background with a whole bunch of processing on it, and it can sit in there and almost sound just like a synth playing your melody line at the top. And like you say, if you use your second take for that, don't use your first take, it'll sound too much the same, but use your second take and do that. And I do exactly that these days. If I'm recording a vocal, I'll sit down, I'll record it 4 times. And here's the good thing, if you're recording it all the same time, you can avoid those issues we thought about in the first track too, where maybe your mic technique changes, your settings are different, your environment's different. Record your take, bang, 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 4 takes, and then you've got a whole bunch of headroom. You can go through and comp those 4 down to 1, and then you can use the dregs. It's like you're a crazy mad scientist. You're putting the other parts together into your doubles and your triples and your harmonies and all your experimental stuff, and it just sounds so cool. You can get some great tones and some great sounds from your own self. So I think a lot of the time people go nuts with all these processing and these programming things that they can use, when really just do it a bunch of times and you'll have everything you need. But you do
I
you.
will say, I don't know if this comment's intended in this way, from Rock. Hi, Rock. Nice to see you again. Played one of his songs 2 or 3 weeks back. Backup singers. So I'll say one thing. If you do have access to other singers, family members, what have you, then having a slightly different tone to the voice really really can help.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've accepted it these days. We hear a lot of very famous songs, not just these days, even where people did their own harmonies and things like that, which can be good. But I also think, whenever you can, get a slightly different character to the harmony is a good thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, Queen was good, but how many Freddies were on each of those tracks? But they had the benefit of both. They had you can have 14 tracks of Freddie, and then you can have the other boys just sort of throwing in a few harmonies here and there. So, it's worthwhile. And again, if you don't have the family members around, communities, online communities, you got the Facebook groups, you got the Discords, you got places where you can collaborate with. You got BandLab, which I just did a show about shortly before. You can collaborate with other people and you can get that. And I did a track recently where I got my whole viewership, about 34 people, to record this one big gang vocal, and that sounded amazing because I blended all those sounds together and all those different male and female vocals. Some were up an octave, some were down a vocal. Got this amazing sound. So utilize the fact that we live in the future and you got people you can collaborate with online.
It reminds me of a question that will come up once in a while about hand claps. How do you record hand claps? Seems like the most simple thing, doesn't it? Well, surely you just clap in front of your microphone. But yeah, you find when you come to do it, it doesn't quite. If you want to do like by yourself, make it sound like there's 20 claps. Yeah, you got to get away from the mic for some. You got to get close to the mic. One of the tips that I've seen is get some of those rubber gloves that you may use for washing dishes or something. They apparently make it sound more like a hand clap than an actual hand clap.
And Mike's got a 100-pack of Ansel rubber gloves by his bed for some reason, so he's always got them handy for his hand. That's what he says. He's like, Susie, I've been clapping all day. That's why I went through 4 pairs.
That's right. Always need that next to your bed and a box of tissues.
I think we've been talking for too long, Mike. I think 2 hours of each other's company just we go
just
down.
Encourage each other. You didn't swear on this show, which is so nice of you.
Didn't I? Didn't I say one? I thought I stuck one S word in there. That's okay. It's all good.
I think we're going to end this. Thank you so much. We've had some great people in the chat today. Really great contributions in there. Thank you so much for being here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to send me your music. It's not enough to be in the chat. Who can I see in there who hasn't sent me their music? There's so many people in there.
You need a Thomas Christ song on here. Come on, Thomas Christ, a great artist.
Hey, Thomas Christ. Haven't I had a Thomas Christ? I think I did on Featured Artist.
Oh, you might have back on Featured Artist back in the
Thomas, we need to hear your music. Mimo, go on, send in some more. Doug, let's hear those mixes. Danny, come on. But yeah, we thanks for the people who did send the songs in today. Don't forget to follow the instructions in the description down below so you can send me your mixes and we'll get them on the show. And I will have another wonderful guest sometime soon. Or maybe not, I don't know. I'm over my guess.
Not me again. I've been twice in 2 weeks. You can piss me off for a few.
No,
weeks
I think I could have you here every week. To be honest with you, I don't mind at all. Yeah, don't mind at all. Some of the others, I mean, God, the other guests I have on, you wonder, don't you? I think, you know,
that lonely rocker guy. No wonder he's lonely. Is that right? Am I right?
Hey guys. They'll never watch this far in the show.
No, exactly. They're not watching. It's fine. We can say what we want. No one's watching at this point. This is the last 5 minutes of these shows.
We've lost since I started saying goodbye. We've lost 4 people.
Put a thumbs up, by the way. While we keep talking about crap, do all the YouTube things.
Please like the video. Yeah, I always forget about that. My mods, people like Kiana remember to say, yeah, please like. It helps out a lot. Yeah, we'll see you all same time next week for another interesting show. Don't forget to tune in also to Pete Johnson Studio Live today, the hour before this show, where he has his Creator Town Hall, talks about really interesting topics. I'm sure he'll have an amazing guest on there next week who isn't me. The thumbnail couldn't match up to the one that you had this week.
That was so sexy. Just
I thought, well, that's a good looking fella. I went, it's me. Hey guys, be good. I'm going to hit the end.